Hey, it's Dave here, and in this video, continuing the irritable bowel syndrome series, we're actually going to talk about how the accumulation of different substances in the digestive system can potentially contribute to the symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome. We're going to particularly talk about toxins and gases. The gases can be toxins themselves, but not all the toxins are gases. And I've got just a brief list here, and this is just a high-level overview of the types of substances within the digestive system that, under certain circumstances, can contribute to a lot of irritation, immune activity, and inflammation in the digestive system, which ultimately leads to the symptoms that you experience, which might be heartburn and reflux, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, abdominal cramping and pain, and all of those different things. Now, the accumulation of some of these substances can also lead to symptoms elsewhere in your body as well. Fatigue, allergy type symptoms, changes in your mood, difficulty sleeping, and all of those different things as well that go hand in hand sometimes with digestive problems. And so just a brief overview of these different classifications of substances. Ammonia is the first one. And ammonia, you're always going to have some ammonia in your body because your body produces it as part of its own metabolism, and it has to be broken down and excreted, and you do that through the kidneys and through your urine. But you can have excessive amounts of ammonia when, for example, you are eating huge amounts of protein, or when something like H. pylori overgrows in your digestive system. H. pylori produces ammonia, which is toxic to the stomach cells. So sometimes ammonia can be one of the reasons or one of the mechanisms by which H. pylori causes problems. And if you're not breaking down ammonia effectively in your body, that can lead to a whole bunch of problems. You can feel wobbly and tired and very unclear and foggy in your brain as well. So ammonia is a big one. And as I say, it's associated with H. pylori. Histamine is the next one. Histamine is another interesting compound. It's a neurotransmitter that we are supposed to have again in the body. It's meant to be there. So normally people don't have a problem with histamine. And the effects of histamine are usually felt when you have some kind of immune system reaction, bee sting, wasp sting, possibly some kind of allergy, hay fever, things like that. That's all based on histamine, right? Histamine is the neurotransmitter that mediates those immune responses, usually via immune cells called eosinophils and basophils. So if you have high eosinophils and basophils on a blood test that your doctor runs, sometimes that can indicate, or often indicate, that there's a histamine problem. Now, with all of these gases, ammonia as well, there's a delicate balance between how much you produce and how much you're able to get rid of, how efficiently you can break the gas or the substance down. And so with histamine, some people genetically aren't able to break it down as quickly and as efficiently as other people. So only a mild increase in histamine production can lead to a problem because you're not able to break it down properly. In other people, you may be able to break it down properly and efficiently, but you might have a real excessive production. And so you could either have an excessive production, or you can have a difficulty breaking it down, or some pattern between the two. In either case, or in any case, the histamine levels can come up and start to cause problems. Certain bacteria in the digestive system produce histamine, and certain bacteria help to break histamine down. So if you have an imbalance in the bacteria or the microbes within the GI tract, that can lead to histamine imbalances. And certain foods may be triggering histamine production as well. A lot of the fermented and aged foods and things like that tend to increase histamine levels in the GI tract too. So you have to be careful with that. Hydrogen sulfide is another gas. So like ammonia, it's a gas. And it typically, again, we need it in certain quantities. It does help us in many regards, but when the production increases, it can start to cause a lot of problems and be very irritating to the digestive system. Hydrogen sulfide is produced by certain bacteria that can overgrow as part of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And so that's another problem. Then we move on to fungi, yeast and fungi and mold. So probably the best known fungal or yeast organism is Candida albicans, and that's meant to be part of the microbiome in many people. We think it's actually part of that mixture of microbes that's supposed to be there. However, it can overgrow under certain circumstances. If stomach acid is low, if we take too many antibiotics, we eat too much sugar, drink too much alcohol, or if our immune system is suppressed for whatever reason, then these organisms can overgrow and they can cause a lot of problems. One of the reasons they cause problems is through the chemicals that they produce, which are roughly known or collectively known as mycotoxins. Myco meaning fungal, right? And so mycotoxins can irritate the digestive system if these organisms overgrow too. And we can also have mold. Mold's a slightly different animal in the regard that while you can kind of bunch yeast, fungi and mold together, mold sensitivity and mold related illness is kind of a category in and of itself. It moves way beyond and extends way beyond just something like a candida overgrowth in the GI tract. If you have a mold related illness that triggers something called chronic inflammatory response syndrome, that is a whole different ballgame, and we'll be doing some videos and podcasts on mold related illness as a standalone topic. Endotoxin is another type of chemical that is produced by certain types of bacteria called gram-negative bacteria. Gram-negative bacteria just means that they have a certain way of examining them with a staining technique. That's all it really means. It's a sort of a microbiologist's terminology. All you need to know is that if you have too many gram-negative microbes in your digestive system and you overproduce endotoxin, then that can be very irritating to the digestive system, and it can also leak into the bloodstream and create a whole bunch of problems as well. One thing I forgot to mention is that the fungal toxins can also get into the bloodstream and create problems elsewhere in the body too. Endotoxin you'll also see written as LPS, which is short for lipopolysaccharide. So if you see on the internet endotoxin, LPS, lipopolysaccharide, they all kind of mean the same thing. Next set of chemicals, pesticides. And again, we can only do a very swift 30-second spiel on pesticides here. Pesticides can irritate the digestive system. There's one in particular that seems to be particularly problematic, which is glyphosate. But if you're eating a lot of commercially produced foods and processed foods and things like that, there's a high chance in certain parts of the world that you're going to be getting a big dose of pesticides whenever you're eating those foods, and they can directly irritate the digestive system. Now, they can also encourage the overgrowth of different types of microbes, which can then produce some of these other chemicals, which also irritate the digestive system. And then finally, last but not least, heavy metals. Heavy metals are things like mercury and arsenic and lead and aluminium. And they can cause problems in the GI tract as well. They can accumulate in the nervous system tissue within the GI tract. They can interfere with the immune system. They can change the microbiome. So I wouldn't always go into heavy metal testing immediately with people. I think there are other important things to look at, but sometimes heavy metals are a very important part of the picture, even when it comes to digestive symptoms. Now, what the hell do you do about all of this? Well, first of all, you can run digestive testing to look at what's going on with your microbiome. Do you have H pylori? Do you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? Do you have candida overgrowth or fungal or mold overgrowth? Is there evidence of mycotoxins in your urine? That's another test you can run. So you can do all of that and then you can deal with it, which often resolves the problems, right? It's a very good strategy. You can also look at your pesticides. There's a test for glyphosate and what have you. But before you spend lots of money on testing, one of the things that you can do as a very quick and simple immediate step is you can use what we call intestinal binders. And those binders are things like different types of clay and charcoal and pectins and different fibers, which are really good at actually trapping many of these different substances and escorting them out of the body when you go to the toilet. And so if you take an intestinal binding agent, which I've given you a couple of examples beneath the video window here, Toxaprevent, GI Detox and what have you, if you take them and you feel better, then you go, I know what's going on. Something in this list of chemicals, ammonia, histamine, whatever it might be, is irritating my digestive system, and when I bind them all up and get rid of them, I feel better. So then you go, well, what the hell is going on to create these high levels of these substances. Do I have a genetic weakness or nutritional deficiencies in the pathways that I need to clear them out? Or am I producing too many of these chemicals? If so, why is that happening? Which of the bad bugs here are overgrowing? And so by a process of elimination, you can do the investigations and figure out exactly what's going on. And you can do pretty much all of this at home. Don't need to go to a doctor. You can do it through home testing kits. So, quick review. Different gases and different substances can act as toxins in the GI tract. They're often mediated by the microbiome, the balance of good bugs and bad bugs in your system. You can have a genetic predisposition to overproducing or under detoxing some of these substances, and that can make you more predisposed to having problems with these substances. You can test for them all at home and you can systematically deal with them, and you can also run a trial using intestinal binders to see if you feel better before you spend a ton of money on the testing. So I hope this has been helpful. Look at the links beneath the video window for help on where to go next, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.